Tu matatia, tu ramatia, te tuapapa o te matatu Aotearoa, ki runga, ki raro, ki uta, ki tai, koia ko te manakitanga, te whanaunatanga, te pono, me te whakamana I te ako. Haumie, huie, tai ki e. Kia ora koutou, haere mai and a big welcome. Matatu Aotearoa, the Teaching Council, is pleased to facilitate this initial teacher education hui for ITE providers. In preparation, please turn on your camera so we can see your faces, ensure your microphone is muted to maintain audio quality, and introduce yourself using the chat. Let us know your name, where you come from, and what your role is, please. Tēnā koutou. A reminder that the slides and recording from today will be sent to you and made available on the Teaching Council website following the hui. Ko Talia Davies tōku ingoa, he tohu tohu ahau ki te matatu Aotearoa. I'm an advisor in the teacher quality team, Te Ohu Pairewa, working in the ITE and competence space, and you'll get to meet my colleagues shortly. Next slide, please. So looking at our agenda for today, a high-level overview involves an introduction shortly about what we're planning for today, followed by several opportunities to learn about the Council's key ITE information for this year. So the hui will give you a chance to learn more about Te Whare o Rongotauira, the Māori medium framework, the teacher quality team approach to engaging with ITE providers, and opportunities to unpack and apply the ITE program approval, monitoring, review, and moderation policy. We're really looking forward to connecting with you today. Tēnā koutou. Next slide, please. So each year there are new leaders and new teaching and administration staff in ITE provider teams around the motu. To help you understand the ITE environment, the Teaching Council each year runs a symposium such as this one so that new staff can familiarise themselves with the council staff supporting ITE and the relevant council services. We acknowledge that many established ITE staff come to this event every year and everyone is extremely welcome. We've set aside 60 minutes for this event, but we may happen to finish a few minutes early. I'm sure that will be okay with everybody. I'll now hand over to my colleague Anahira, who will discuss Te Whare o Rongotauira, the Māori Medium Framework. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora Talia. Tēnā tātou e te whānau, ko Anahira taia ki tōku ingoa, he uri no te taitoke rau, ko Ngāti Kuri, me Ngāti Whātua, e mihi kau atu ana kia tātou e huhi nei I tēnei wā. What you see before you is Te Whare o Rongotauira. The Whare Tupuna provides a conceptual framework and a pathway for how the provider and the panel will engage and undertake the approval of Māori medium ITE programs. The requirements that are equivalent to the ITE requirement policy, program and MRM policy are couched within the respective dimensions of this whare. For example, here te tāhuhu, here we have aroha mai, tāhuhu. The dimension of the tāhuhu has ngā tikanga matatika mo te haipapa ngaiotanga and ngā pairewa mo te umanga haka akoranga that will be interwoven throughout each dimension of the whare represented in every part of the program. So that's one example of Te Whare o Rongotauira, and we will hear the code and the standards throughout a program development. And of course, in context of each ITE provider. Ngā mātāpono, kaupapa, whanaungatanga, aro, ako, and te ao Māori are the principles in which the program will be evaluated and will be unique to the context of the provider and the process of each program. Tēnā tātou. Kia ora. Next slide, please.
Oh, kia ora Anahira. Kia ora koutou. Hei kai tohu matua au I matatu Aotearoa, ko Simon Cottle tōku ingoa. The main support you will receive from the Teaching Council as ITE providers comes from the teacher quality team. And our previous iteration of our team provide a lot of support when both the ITE requirements were new in 2019 and when Te Whare o Rangatautira was released in 2021. As time's gone on, our existing providers have become more and more experienced, both in the ITE approval requirements and the standards Ngā Pairiwa for the teaching profession. So our focus is shifting onto new providers, but also our new processes such as review. Now, the existing processes have remained the same, so those that experience holds you in good stead. One change that did happen was the cost for support, and that is to ensure that charges to providers cover the actual and reasonable costs of the ITE functions provided by the Teaching Council. And that is to ensure that the teacher registration fees and levies are not used to subsidise ITE provider costs. So there are many costs and we can provide those, but there are many resources, many resources that are freely available on our website. And we're just going to pop a link in the chat there, because what we have on screen is the starting point is this professional practice tab. And then you can see over to the right, there's a whole selection for ITE providers on there, and we'll keep on touching on those resources as we go through the slide. But our next slide is the main area of support, and this is the ITE provider portal. So the ITE provider portal is your go-to place to manage applications for new programs, program review, program changes, and student exemptions and extensions. So you can access your program information, edit contact details, keep track of the progress of submissions, and this is all in an IT secure environment. Top tip from Talia is ready to tick. Remember to tick the ready to submit box when you are uploading in the ITE portal, because it's a button right at the bottom of the page. So access to the ITE portal is for your chosen employees who you think will need to submit, update, or view their program information. And we're going to pop a link to the ITE portal in the chat as well, like that. Thank you, team. So just in a little bit more detail, if we just pop to the next slide. So to get there, we've got the link in the chat. There is a guide up on the website. So the ITE provider portal reference guide is all you need to know about getting set up to work in that space, how to log in, how to navigate the portal and upload evidence. So we'll pop the link there. Again, it's under that professional practice tab on the Teaching Council website. Now, the logins align with the provider information. We will be contacting you shortly just to make sure that is up to date. As ITE providers, you can decide who can log in, but it's also advisable to remove staff when they no longer require access. And if it's been a while since you've been there, just a reminder, your username is just your email address. The other thing we need to point out is that the portal is for you as ITE providers. It's distinct to the teachers portal, which is Hapori Matatu. So Hapori Matatu is the teacher portal where you can apply for certificate renewal, endorse if you're endorsing others, and you can keep track of your progress in Hapori Matatu. Hapori Matatu requires an education sector log on from the ministry, but it is relevant for you as ATE providers, especially if you are a professional leader and you're endorsing the practicing certificate of your staff. Okay, so we've got the portal, the other go-to for everything beyond the portal. From 2024, when we changed to the teacher quality team, that's where we encourage all other queries that aren't addressed through the portal to go to this address, ITE admin. And although it's an administration address, I just want to point out that it goes through Talia, who is an advisor, not an administrator. She's tohu with the teacher quality team. Now, unlike NZQA, we don't have the capacity to have a designated staff for each provider. So by using this address, it allows us to craft responses as a team, and that's often in collaboration with our policy and implementation team to ensure accuracy and consistency in our responses. I'm now going to hand you back to Anahira that will cover some of those points in greater detail. Kia ora.
Tēnā tātou anō. The following conversation kōrero is in regards to program approval, program changes review, annual reporting and monitoring. I will explain a couple of things touching on the points that Simon has shared, and also for my colleagues to also get details further on in this presentation. Applications for program approval and review must be sent through the portal. In regards to annual reporting and monitoring and changes, please email through the ITE admin email address. Program approval in our ITE program approval MRM policy, criteria 4.1, where applications are made through the portal, utilize the relevant policy documents, the equivalent to, in reference to the whare o rongo tauira, is the ITE program approval monitoring and review requirements. Applications must contain evidence in accordance with the ITE program requirements policy or te whare o rongo tauira. Before proceeding with the application, there may be a request for an ITE advisor support. A fee is attached and of $70 per hour. And upon receiving the application, Teaching Council will evaluate the information, whether there is sufficient evidence to go to panel. And if not, aroha mai, the ITE team will request further information be provided. I will share more about that process on the next slide. In regards to program change, we will see in the policy, the ITE policy, ITE requirements policy 4.9 and 4.10. In some instances, through the provider's internal monitoring systems, a decision may be made to make a program change to approved programs. The ITE team will consider the application and determine whether it is either a major or minor change, and further details about the major and minor changes will be shared by Jocelyn further in this presentation. In regards to annual reporting, 6.5 in the ITE requirement policy, it is intended to be a low burden approach where information already held by the IT provider is readily available to be shared with the ITE team. In reference, there are two lists that will be asked for. In reference to list A, 6.5.2, that is the information that is readily available to share with ITE team. List B is for the purpose of periodic review, where information will be unique in its request that may take more time and resource. So therefore, that will be asked and changed annually. In regards to monitoring, and once again in the ITE requirements policy, for approved programs, a monitor is indicated by the ITE provider at panel. The program monitoring will take place depending on the program design of a one-year program, 2, 3, or 4-year program duration. Bill will share more details about the process for monitoring. In regards to program review, this is 7.1 in the ITE requirements policy. A program review is a celebration of the program's strengths. It also outlines the processes used to evaluate the effectiveness of ITE program delivery and encourage continual improvement in accordance with the approved program. Jocelyn will talk more about the review process very soon. Kia ora. Next slide, please. Aha. Okay. The standards for ITE, there are several, and the ITE program approval, monitoring and review requirements to be used in conjunction with the ITE requirements part 2 for developing your program. As I indicated, the first indicator is to submit a interest through to the ITE admin and request, if so needed, a ITE advisor to support development of your program. And of course, the submission of documents through the portal will be made through the portal. The standards will indicate the importance of the code and standards be interwoven throughout your program through a program design. The standards 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3, for example, is a authentic relationship inclusive of your partners to be interwoven into how the design of your program will bring effect to the code and standards. Following the agreement to the authentic partnerships and the design and the delivery, the consideration is also made around an assessment framework. So make sure that you will go to this requirement, IT program requirement, approval, monitoring and review requirements, and also consider the ITE program requirement policy. There are changes that you need to consider around the literacy and numeracy. We also have the submission date for the 31st for all new programs. So once we do have the documents into our portal, the ITE team will then work through a desktop analysis of the information received. And if there is consideration that the evidence provided is needing more support, more information to be included, the team will then come to that decision to request for more information. And therefore, we will ask that that be added to in addition to your application of your program. Once the decision has been made to go to approve to panel, we will proceed to prepare things, prepare for panel. If in the event that the program is needs more work or declined, then that will need a conversation and an alternative support to bring your program through again for resubmission. Now, the approval pathway in organising for panel, the ITE team has prepared members to participate on the panel. And these members will be from our ITE community, and depending on the design of the program, a representative from the ECE, from the different levels of sector or different settings, being kura kaupapa or our puna reo. In establishing the panel members, they must be confirmed by the ITE providers with all conflicts acknowledged and put in place for a robust panel. The deliberation through the panel, following the panel, the approval will be led by the approval panel, or will be led by the chair, and the panel to make the decision of approval with the final consideration made by the Chief Executive of Matatu Aotearoa Teaching Council. Following this approval, the report will be provided to the provider, will be sent to the provider and NZQA to register and the program to then place onto our website. NZQA and QAP, the Teaching Council work alongside the accreditation support of NZQA and QAP of the universities and NZQA of non-universities to support each program. In the event that it is a decline, that is a wonderful discussion to be held and to strengthen their resubmission for further program development. Tēnā tātou, kia ora.
Kia ora koutou, ko Jocelyn Pollock tuku ingoa, he kai toho tuhua mātua o ki te matatoa Aotearoa. I am one of the advisors, senior advisors on the teacher quality team at the council. It's nice to see some familiar faces after all our conversations last year. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about program change or program changes and following a program approval. So there are two types of change. We've got a major change and a minor change, as my colleague Anahira referred to earlier. A major change is any changes to components of an approved program that have an impact on the program as a whole. So they are things such that might alter the learning outcomes and assessment tasks, might change the graduate profile, the structure of the program, mode of delivery, site of delivery. Those are some of the things. It's not an exhaustive list, but you can find those under 4.9 of the MRM policy. Any program change is submitted through the portal. You will have seen on when Simon was talking that there was a little window that had that was there for program change, so that goes through there for major changes. If you're not sure whether a change is a minor change or a major change, reach out to us at the ITE admin email with the information that's on the slide there, and we will have a look and get back to you as to next steps, whether it is a minor change and therefore a notification, or whether it's a major change and may need to go to a panel for further consideration. So at the teacher quality team or the risk assessment group, we'll look at whether the change is low risk, low change, or whether it's, which in that case is considered a minor change, or whether it's considered high change, low risk, low change, high risk, or high change and high risk, which then goes either to an internal or external panel to look at, to make sure that those changes are not having an adverse impact on the program or the outcomes. There is a cost involved for major program changes and going to panel, so you do need to be aware of that, but that's all in the documentation that we have sent through. Just one point, for non-universities, just be aware that the major and minor changes at Teaching Council may well differ from level 1 and level 2 changes at NZQA. Because we look at different parameters, they may not line up. So a level 1, what is considered a level 1 change at NZQA may well end up being a major change through the Teaching Council. So just be aware of that slight difference. But as I said, if you're not sure whether it's a major or a minor change, just contact us through that email and we will help you through the process. Okay, next slide, please. Program review. So 2025 is the first year for review of programs, and all those providers who have programs being reviewed in 2025 have been contacted, and either a day or a week has been identified, and we'll be in contact with you, if that's you, to identify a specific day or days. The first review for all providers is going to be by panel. Now that panel might be online or it might be face-to-face. That's your decision to make, whether you want as a provider to have a face-to-face panel or an online panel.
There are costs involved, of course, slightly more for face-to-face, but it's all in that the review program review guide for ITE providers, which is just being put in the chat. Thank you, Ottilie. So when we're looking at review, we have got a template which we talked about last year at the program review symposium, and that's been firmed up now, and that will be sent to you. And it identifies a way of putting information together so that it is review focused and it's not a reapproval focus. So it really is looking at celebrations, changes you've made, whether you that just assurance that the program is still being taught as approved, that students are still meeting the standards, coming out meeting the standards in a supported environment, and that it's meeting the graduate profile that you're identifying. The provider guide sets out the steps towards a panel, sort of a bit of a timeline, and we acknowledge that those providers who have got reviews in February, March and April have a slightly truncated timeline for getting submission of documentation, and we appreciate your support in making sure that's done. It talks about what happens at a panel and what happens post-panel. It talks about how you go about submitting documentation. It looks at the composition of a panel and the costs involved, and also what might happen in terms of following a panel, whether the panel recommends approval of the review, that the program is still adhering to how it was approved to do, whether there are any suggestions or whether there are any conditions following that review. So that's all about the council decision-making process. Following review, another review is set within 5 years, and that may well take the form of a self-review model. However, providers can opt for a panel review if they wish. So that's all set out in that provider guide. So make sure you have a look through that, and we are here to answer any questions we can help you with around that process. And just a reminder too, that if you're having a review, you won't be monitored that same year. So if you're up for monitoring and review in the same year, it's review that will happen, not the monitoring. But at this stage, annual reporting will still be annual reporting. Okay, moving on to the next slide, please. Over to you, Bill.
Jocelyn. Kia ora koutou katoa. For Bill Hubbard-Kenney, I work in the role of Tohu Arahi, lead advisor in the Teach Quality team. Thanks for being here today. So monitoring, since COVID and the transition over to the new programs in recent years, the council has employed interim monitoring. Interim monitoring ended at the end of last year, and the new monitoring process begins this year. In actual fact, it begins about mid-year, mid-2025. And the professional working group who assisted with the design of this new monitoring process, and some of those people might even be here online today, they wanted that this be a low burden approach for those providers that warranted it. And with the recognition that PTEs, polytechs, universities all have their own quality assurance processes, and so not reinventing the wheel. What this means is for virtually all providers for 2025 and beyond is that there will be for them a universal approach, which is effectively a desktop self-evaluation. For programs that have been identified that might need a little bit more work or a little bit more scrutiny, I guess you could say, where an actual monitor, a real live monitor is warranted, then what is known as tailored monitoring, which is called level 2, can be applied. If there is a program that it appears to need more significant work, there is the option of investigative or level 3 monitoring, which once again is a real live monitor and not a desktop evaluation. And we wish providers to know, because this will be the wish for some providers themselves, if they should want to enlist a provider to pay for a monitor, I beg my pardon, this year or next year when monitoring comes up for them. Even if they qualify for universal monitoring, there's nothing to stop them from organising a monitor at their own expense. Next slide, please. So here's a quick look at what monitoring looks like for polytechs and PTEs in the green and universities in the green at the bottom, and the pink in the middle there is NZQA processes. So you can see that monitoring for NZQA continues annually. For us, after those first 3 years, it's biannually. Next slide, please. Annual monitoring, as you can see there under 6.5 of the MRM policy, is part of monitoring, and it's been briefly mentioned already this morning. So it began in 2024, it will occur again in 25 and thereafter. Effectively, as Anahira said, it has 2 parts to it, and you can see part A and part B on the screen there. Part A effectively allows a provider to give us everything about their program that they have. So it doesn't have to be analysed or evaluated, just give us what you've got. And List B, as Anahira said, is something that the council is seeking further information from for all providers for a particular year. For example, for 2024, one of the issues we're looking at is how were partners involved in the CIA? So that's annual reporting. Next slide, please. We invite Joe Scott to help us out with this one from the policy team. Kia ora, Joe.
Kia ora, thanks, Bill. Kia ora koutou. Lovely to see you all today, and hoping that your new year has started well. I'm just going to talk briefly about some of the new and amended requirements that are in place that were advised to you towards the end of last year. So the first one to talk about is the new requirement 1.4, and that's a requirement that's just lifting up the preparation to implement the curriculum aspects of your program structure. You'll all be aware of the curriculum changes that the government has signalled and has begun implementing in English and Māori medium schooling over the next 3 years. And of course, as ITE providers, you have a critical role to play in terms of supporting your students to be able to pick up those curriculum changes and use them when they enter the teaching workforce. So the new requirement 1.4 that we've introduced is just intended to give some additional clarity around the expectations for student teachers in regards to being prepared to implement the curriculum. And it talks about being able to respond to any changes that mean a change to teaching practices, such as what's been signalled in the curriculum reforms so far. And you'll be aware of some of the things around structured literacy and so forth, and structured numeracy. Alongside that curriculum change, with that curriculum implementation of the curriculum requirement, we did some work with you last year around the key teaching task part of the requirements for 4.3, and some additions were made to that requirement, which brought in the notion of core teaching tasks, which would be teaching tasks that are developed nationally by the council and that would be required to be implemented in a program. At the moment, where we're at with that side of things is that we also have referenced in that requirement model key teaching tasks, and so this year in our primary programs, there are some model key teaching tasks available for providers to use in those programs and test in those programs around structured literacy and explicit teaching in English medium programs and rangaranga reo a tā for Māori medium programs. And so for those model tasks, we'll be doing some evaluation, seeking some feedback on those towards the end of 2025 before looking at them as core key teaching tasks going forward. And so there's some like most things, there's some information on the website and about those tasks. But the ITE requirements document is currently being edited and revised to incorporate those, but that information has been shared with providers so that you can use it in your programs for 2025. And then the other change to the requirements, it's responding to some of the curriculum changes or curriculum reforms that have been introduced by the government, is again looking at primary programs, English medium primary programs, and looking at the maths entry requirement. And the key thing to note about this change is that it applies to students who are beginning their or enrolling in programs from 2025 going forward. And so in 2025, students who have enrolled in those programs starting in 2025 will need to pass a prescribed maths assessment before they graduate, rather than it being a transitional arrangement as we implement the new expectation. So rather than that being expected at the beginning of the program, which would not have been possible for you to do, there's a space for students to do that prior to graduation, and providers will operationally be able to have the discretion to work out, what's going to be the best time for a final opportunity for a student to take that prescribed assessment. We're currently, and then going forward into 2026, for our multi-year programs, the candidate would need to pass the prescribed maths assessment prior to the second year of their program, and then 1 year programs prior to enrolment in 2026, and then from 2027 onwards, that for primary programs, that assessment would replace the existing numeracy test. And we have contracted some work in terms of developing guidelines for the prescribed maths assessment, and that so that work's nearing completion, and there's going to be opportunities for each provider to there'll be an initial information session about using the LNUT tool, and then which will be recorded. So if you're not able to get to that initial info session, you'll be able to watch the recording. And then there will also be an opportunity for each provider to have a one-on-one session to go through how the tool works. And we're aware that some providers are already using this tool, but the opportunity will be offered to all providers to pick up that one-on-one support. So that will be coming out soon with some information about potential dates. We're sort of aware that there's the professional learning and development that's meant to be taking place for structured literacy. So we had signalled to our contractor to work around that, but that should be coming out to you soon. Yeah, I think that's probably covers off the maths, the prescribed maths entry requirement. There's more information on the website, and there's a table there that just sets out that the transitional process for those primary programs. So do take a look at that. But please get in touch if you've got any questions about it, and we'll do our best to help. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Joe, many thanks for that. Kia ora koutou anō. Student exemptions. We're getting towards the end of our presentation here. New exemptions through the portal. Previous to 2019, there were more options for student exemptions. With the 2019 requirements and all those programs, there are less options. The two options for exemption through the portal now are 6.2, the English language competence, and many of you are using the portal for making those exemption applications. There is a symposium happening in 2 days' time specifically about making these applications, because it is both an art and a science, and so the symposium will help you cover off how to make high quality applications. The other reason that a provider who have got students with international qualifications, there might be some students who don't meet 6.1 exactly, the entry requirements, but have got redeeming factors in their application, so that application can come through the portal to us as well. The panels meet approximately weekly, so we can get a reply back to you relatively soon. Next slide, please. There have been in the past, and there continues to be the opportunity for the council to support your students or your graduates to be with talks or presentations. One of those could be a new student talk. It could either be done live, face-to-face with someone actually at your premises, or online. There would be a cost associated for either of those. Another option for your organisation is there are pre-recorded talks about entering the profession or joining an ITE program that's available on our website. Another option is that close to graduation, many providers like the opportunity to put a registration officer in front of their students to talk them through how a high quality application can be made for registration and provisional certification. So once again, that can be done online or face-to-face at cost. Next slide, please. Handing over to Talia.
Yeah, mihi Bill. So the teacher quality team will be sending out a message to you shortly, inviting you to hui with us about provider information in 2025, or to amend existing provider information for 2025. So the purpose for the start of year information is for the council to understand who the key provider contacts are in your organisation. So this refers to everyone who needs to receive symposia invites, the ITE newsletter, and any other relevant communications, such as if we need to reach a particular program leader or coordinator. So we know that there are shifts in kaimahi, and we like to keep abreast of these changes so that we're reaching out to the right people. So please let us know throughout the year if there are changes to your staff. So it's important that we're reaching the right people. Our communication with providers is reliant on us having the correct details, and we appreciate your help with that. So the other purpose of collecting this information is to see who needs access to the ITE portal, which Simon and my colleagues have talked about, so that you can make language exemptions or program changes if you've got a new program to apply for, or to submit your program review documents. So this information also allows us to find out which programs are on offer for 2025 so that the Teaching Council can display this information correctly on our website, and also share with the ministry for their program Finder tool, which was introduced last year. This is used by prospective students, and that's hosted by the ministry. So we're looking forward to connecting with you if you would like to shortly for these short hui, and just a huge thank you to you for providing with us with this important information for this year, so that we're reaching the right people in your organisation. Next slide, please. So the ITE newsletter, you'll be aware, we have a newsletter which is distributed when there is information to share. So this is released several times a year. It contains critical information about ITE developments, information from the teacher quality team in relation to the requirements and the monitoring, review, moderation and approval policy, and any critical policy updates. So if you're not already on the distribution list, or if you're not sure if you're on the distribution list, you can sign up using the link which will be put in the chat. And this includes previous versions of the newsletter as well. So it's important that we have the correct email address for everyone who needs to receive the newsletter, especially for new staff who join throughout the year. Ngā mihi. On to the next slide.
Oh, tēnā tātou. Mēnā he pātai au, tukua mai ki tēnei imera. If you have any questions about the kaupapa that we have spoken to today, or other queries that you would like to know more about, please email using this address to iteadmin@teachingcouncil.nz. Kia ora. Next slide, thank you.
Ngā mihi anuhira. And a huge thank you for your time today, for attending the hui. I'd like to acknowledge your ongoing commitment to IT requirements and the MRM policy, and your mahi to ensure we have wonderful graduates ready to enter the profession. I'd also like to acknowledge our kai whakahaere manager, Jane Franklin, who was not able to join this hui today, and to acknowledge our shared services team. We appreciate your mahi in running this hui for us today. Ngā mihi. Kua ea ki runga, kua ea ki raro, e rongo whakairihia ki runga ki a tīna, tīna. Haumie, hui e, tai ki e. Kia pai tō rā. Ka kite.